Very good. Well, we were researching because I do Taste of San Miguel food tours. I'm the manager. We're always looking for new tours and new ideas. And so I thought it would be great if we could do a Spirits of San Miguel tour, but mixing it with cocktails and some ghost stories. So of course I kind of just put out there, I'm a federal tour guide and have lots of tour guide friends. So kind of put out, what ghost stories do you all know? And asking local friends what ghost stories they knew and they'd heard growing up, and kind of mesh them together. Of course, you have to tweak it here and there and kind of make it fit, especially for an actual physical tour where you're going places. This was nice because I didn't really need a logical sequence. You know, we could kind of just bounce around town. So, yeah, and as I've been advertising, I've actually had a lot more people contact me and say, oh, you've got to hear this story. Oh, I've got a good one for you. So I said, well, let me finish this one and then I'll, you know, go out to coffee with some friends and get some more ghost stories to share.
Yeah. So now that it's 7 o'clock and we have people here, we're going to just get started. We are super excited and very proud to have Vail Kristina Smerlinder Suarez with us today. Vail is an award-winning storyteller who has lived in San Miguel for over half her life. As we just learned, she moved here when she was 20 and never left. She's an English and Spanish teacher with 17 years of experience teaching in person and more recently online classes. She's also a published author and illustrator, a federally accredited tour guide, and the manager of Taste of San Miguel food tours. We are so excited that you're here, Vail, and if you want to just start right in, you're welcome to. If people have questions, so the format of tonight is going to be storytelling. Vail has the stage for the next 30-40 minutes. If you have questions during her presentation, we direct you to please put it in the Q&A. Which is at the bottom of your screen. You can also put it in the chat. We'll be watching those, but Q&A is a little bit easier for us to monitor and watch. And Vail can answer the questions at the end. She's also inviting people, if you have any ghostly experiences of your own, think about those, because she's going to open up the floor at the end if you want to share any of those. Lastly, we wanted to let you know we've heard that people had trouble making donations. If you go back to our website, languageadventurepros.com, go to the webinars page, and the very first section where you registered, just below that is a yellow donate button. We suggest a $5 donation, but of course you're welcome to give whatever amount that you feel this evening is worth. So without further ado, we're going to hand it over to Vail. Thank you, Vail.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Wonderful introduction. I don't think I need to introduce myself anymore, except to say I'm kind of melding my three passions, teaching, being a tour guide, and storytelling, all together tonight to give you an eerie evening of spooky stories. So welcome, everyone, to the Spirits of San Miguel. We are going to be coming live from San Miguel, which is in Mexico. So you can see here, we are in the state of Guanajuato, where it is red in case you haven't been here before. This may either make you want to come or make you not want to come, depending on how scared you get tonight. So we are in the state of Guanajuato. Looking at the state of Guanajuato, we are in the yellow section, that is the county of Allende. And this area has been inhabited since 800 BCE. And it was first inhabited by the Chupicuarios, and then later the Puripechas, the Chichimecas, also the Otomi, who still live in this area. So the Puripecha people gave the name of Wata, which meant the hilly place of frogs, which the Spanish somehow understood as Guanajuato. So here you can see an indigenous frog design. So we all know that the older a place is, the more ghost stories and apparitions it has. And this area has been inhabited for nearly 3,000 years. San Miguel itself has been around nearly 500 years. And of course, people come. This is an older picture of San Miguel. You can see the church, the churches, and really not much else. This is where I live today. So you can see it has definitely grown a lot. So here we have some examples of the streets of San Miguel. So it's easy to come here and fall in love with the city, the street, the ambiance. It makes it very hard to leave. And in fact, some souls have found it impossible to leave. And they have been roaming these streets, some for decades and some for centuries. So are we ready to hear some of their stories? Here we go. We are going to start on the Calle of Animas, which is the street of souls. So here we go. We've sped it up a little bit. We're turning up Animas Street now. Okay, so this was the route that the funeral processions would walk down. So it's a one-way, we're going the wrong way. The processions would come down the other way. They would walk through what had been fruit orchards up until about the 1950s, early 60s. So literally the homes at the end of the street are built on indigenous burial grounds. So some neighbors say that they have heard wailing late at night, making their dogs bark. They've heard strong winds blowing while not feeling a breeze, and yet having goosebumps all over their bodies. Yes, the hundreds of animas, or souls, that have passed down that street on their way to their final resting place have left a little bit of their spirits behind. So we are heading up the street called Cuesta de San Jose. And we are going to go to the reservoir, which is one of our smaller city water sources. We are headed towards the PRESA OBRAJE, or the reservoir of the factory. So we are going up and up in San Miguel. People who live up this way will often walk down the hill to get into town and take a taxi when they're ready to go back home. So just a little further up and we will take a left. And we will be at, like I said, the PRESA OBRAJE. Very good. So here we go, making the left. Up again, up and up. I was worried speeding it up, it might feel like a roller coaster a little bit. Very bumpy streets. Okay, so we are about to arrive. They've actually built a beautiful new lookout point here. A great place to come and watch the sunset, feel the cool breeze coming off of the lake. So here we are at the top of the hill, La Presa Obraje, or the factory reservoir. So here we've got the picture. So you can see the lake. In the 1500s, this natural reservoir was on the very first map that the Spanish made of this area. They made a retaining wall in the 1700s, which is still standing today. Here you can see an old picture of the reservoir. So it led downstream to the Fábrica Aurora, which was a fabric factory back then. They opened in 1902. Now, of course, it's an art center that has 60 galleries, many restaurants, and shops to visit. So originally, this presa was called the Presa Colonial. Now, as I say, it's Presa Obraje. So our first story is the most famous ghost story of all stories in Mexico, La Llorona, or the Mourning Mother. So anywhere there is water, you will hear versions of this same story. So we will start with watching the sunset over the water. Once upon a time, there was a beautiful young woman who was both an orphan and a widow. She had nothing. She had no one but her 2 children. After many months of poverty and loneliness, she met a handsome, rich military officer at the marketplace. She was charmed by him, and she started to meet him every week at the market. They soon fell in love. One day, the officer told her that he had been stationed in the north. He urged the woman to come with him. She finally confessed to him that she had 2 children. The officer was angry and felt deceived. He said that he would not raise somebody else's children. He told her, "Leave them with some family or friends and come away with me. I will make you happy. I will take care of you and love you forever," he told her. They agreed to meet at the train station the next night and sealed the deal with a passionate kiss. The woman had no family or friends to leave her children with. She knew she could not abandon them to suffer as homeless orphans the way she had suffered. She also knew she had no way to get out of poverty or feed her children. They would all starve to death eventually. As they walked home past the reservoir, she realized that her children would suffer less if she killed them. And she would be free to go with her lover. She lured the children into the water, saying it was the perfect night for a late night swim. The children got into the water laughing and playing, and she then pushed them under the water and held them under while they kicked and fought for air. She cried as she waited for them to stop moving. And after she saw their dead bodies floating in the water, she repented. She tried to revive them, but it was too late. She had drowned her own children. She cried and she wailed. She could not live with the guilt that she felt, and so she drowned herself also. And today it is said, if you are walking close to water, you can hear her crying, "Mis hijos, my children." She can be seen by men and women and children. But if you are a man, be very careful, because she will lure you into the water to drown you and make you her ghost husband and make you help her search for her lost children and take care of her lost ghost children for all eternity. La Llorona. Very good. So we're going away from the PRESA. We are heading down the hill again, heading towards downtown. We are going to go on the street of Acamapitle, which then turns into the street of Aparicio, which is the apparition. Of course, there's many ghostly apparitions in town, but Mexico is a very Catholic country. So there are also very many apparitions of religious figures, of course, most notably the Virgin Mary. So here we go down the street. As you can see, if you haven't been here before, the streets are very, very narrow, and they were built for horses and carriages, donkeys and carts. No one could have imagined the pickup trucks and the SUVs that now drive around town. So speed bump there. San Miguel is famous for many things. There's speed bumps included. So here we are on the street Aparicio. Luckily, almost all of our streets are one-way streets. So you don't have to worry too much about getting stuck with a car coming the other way. So further on, this street will turn into Mesones Street, one of our major downtown streets. We're turning now onto Calzada de la Presa. This street actually has 7 names in about 9 blocks. Of course, the names of the street changed to tell you what was on them or who lived on these streets. So this is actually Núñez, and getting up a bit further, it's Calzada de la Presa. So here we are turning. This street will bring us up to the Ignacio Ramirez Market, where they sell fruits, vegetables, flowers, meat, food. It is also where the artisans market begins. So we've got a new clock tower there, you can see. And this building on the left, I'm sorry, on the right, is the University of León. This is the site of our next story. So we will start showing the Plaza Cívica as it was in the 1800s. This was actually where the first covered market was. And here, this is what we would see today at the Plaza Cívica. There are 2 churches in this plaza, the Templo de Salud, or the Temple of Health. You can see the original old photograph on the left and the more modern one on the right. We also have the Oratorio Church, again, antique photo on the left and the modern photo on the right. So the University of León is this big yellow building. This was actually a school way back in the 1700s. It was opened and run by priests. So here you can see the inside. It really hasn't changed at all, except for the paint job. Very good. So this school offered classes for boys of all ages. Girls were not allowed to study. When one of the student's parents died, the student was left to take care of his younger sister. The playful girl, or la niña juguetona. Here we can see her. So she would accompany her brother to school, but she wasn't allowed in the classrooms. Heaven forbid she may have learned something. She would bring some toys. She had marbles, a doll, a ball. She would play and she would sing to herself as she roamed the hallways. She was very energetic and very brave. A few weeks passed and she started to get so very bored. So she began to sit on and walk on the ledge of the second-story balcony. Although her brother and the priest scolded her and told her to get down, she continued to do it. One day, as she sat on the ledge, bouncing her ball against the wall, she lost her balance and fell to the first floor, where she died immediately. But she did not leave. In fact, she never left. The building is now, as I mentioned, a high school and a university again. And even after all of these years, the students, the teachers, and the staff on the evening shifts have reported hearing a young girl singing. They've seen balls rolling down the hallway, unexplained shadows, and some have even caught a glimpse of the girl sitting on the stairs, on the balcony, running down the hallways or across the courtyard. They say she is not a scary ghost and that she seems to be happy roaming the hallways as always and playing by herself. So the playful girl, la niña juguetona. So we are heading away now from the Plaza Cívica. We are heading towards Mesones Street. We will see a bit of the Plaza Cívica. The Plaza Cívica is kind of like San Miguel's family room or den. The jardín would be like our formal living room, and the Plaza Cívica, a place to meet friends, family, place to relax. This is where they have the Day of the Dead market set up every year. On the left, we can see the church, the Temple of San Francisco. We are turning on to Suarez Street now, and we will turn again on San Francisco Street. We are heading to the house of Santa Ana, Casa de Santa Ana. This house was built in 1752. It was bought by the President Santa Ana in the mid-1800s. So again, here we're passing by the San Francisco Church. We'll have a ghost story about this church in part 2. Of course, another little plaza. In Mexico, you go and you sit with your friends and family outside, you get fresh air. No one has to entertain and clean the house and get ready for guests. So here we are, taking a left onto San Francisco Street. Very good. So the President Santa Ana, whose name was Antonio de Paula María Servino López de Santa Ana y Pérez de Lebrón. Imagine being a teacher and having to read out all those names. Usually he is known just as Santa Anna. He was in the military, first in the Spanish military, until they were overthrown, and then he joined up with the Mexican military. So he was the governor of the Yucatan. Oh, here we are. He was the governor of the state of Yucatan. He was the governor of the state of Veracruz. Here we are, the Casa Santa Anna. And here is the President Santa Anna. He became the president of Mexico in 1833. He rose to lead the Mexican country 11 times before becoming a military-backed dictator. He was known as the Napoleon of the West. Santa Anna sold nearly half of Mexico's territory in 1853, including Texas, New Mexico, Arizona, Colorado, California, and Oregon. Of course, he is remembered as the worst president in the history of Mexico. In fact, he was exiled from Mexico, moving from place to place, Cuba, Jamaica, Colombia, the Virgin Islands, and Santo Domingo. He died poor, lonely, and forgotten. So this is the presidential scandal. Not just in this era did we have presidential scandals. You can see the outside of the house, and here we get a view of the second story. So the staff that he had working for him in this house were horrified and embarrassed after the president sold half of the country to the United States for almost no money. The house was sold, the staff was employed by the new owners. A number of the staff worked in this house for the rest of their lives. They were too ashamed to leave the house, too ashamed because they had worked for such a traitor of their nation. When they died, they were scared of being sent straight to hell for working for the traitor Santa Anna. And instead of moving on, they decided to stay in the house for all eternity. This house is now a very elegant and expensive vacation rental, $3,500 US per week, sleeps 8. Many guests report hearing people sweeping, cooking, and doing other chores. They assume that the cleaning staff has arrived, but when they follow the noise, no one is there. They say the ghosts often sing or hum to themselves or chat with each other as they work. Others say that they have seen and heard ghosts roaming the hallways at night. Would you dare stay in this haunted house? So we are headed right up San Francisco Street. We are on for the lookout point on the Salida de Querétaro, or the road to Querétaro. So of course, the lookout point pre-coronavirus times was a place where most tour buses would stop. It is a favorite place for people to go to watch the sunset. And of course, a popular place for people to park and talk a little bit and kiss a little bit. So here we go, up, up, up the hill. So we taped this at 1 a.m., but San Miguel is a little bit like New York City, the city that never sleeps. We were hoping to get a video with no cars, but as you can see, that was impossible. So here we go, up, up, and up the hill some more. So here people pass on the right, they pass on the left. Anything goes in San Miguel. Very good. We are almost at the top here. So on the left-hand side, there is the hotel that belonged to Cantinflas, a very famous Mexican comedian. Who actually did some work also in the United States. So here we go. The hotel is on the left. This was his own personal home. Now it is a huge hotel. So here we go. We've reached the top, and here we are arriving at the lookout point. Very good. So here we will see a few photos because, of course, during coronavirus times, there is nobody allowed to park or even to walk by the mirador. They are considering this to be like a park. So here, all of these fences are usually not there. This is just coronavirus measures. So here we are at the mirador. So here, the mirador or the lookout point, again, you can see there wasn't much to look at back then. We can see the bull ring was already built here. And in the next photo, we can see the bull ring also. So you can tell San Miguel has grown a lot and continues growing. So we are now going to head down the hill. We are going down the street, Chinas Piedras, Chinas, sorry, other way around, which means Chinese stones. So this street starts, pretty average size. The further down you go, the more narrow it gets. So if you ever come to San Miguel and you are driving around, I would definitely suggest putting in the side rear view mirrors as you go down this street, because at the very end, you can barely squeak by. So here we go, down and down. So we are heading to what we call the chorro, or the stream, which is the birthplace of modern San Miguel. So the first Spaniard to arrive in this area was a priest named Fray Juan de San Miguel. He did not come alone. He came with a military escort. He was invited to live with the Chichimeca people. Of course, how do you say no when they show up with a military escort? So here, the last little turn, we barely squeak by. In fact, we have to do a little bit of a back up, move forward, back up in to get around the corner here. A lot of difficult driving in San Miguel. Okay, so here we are now headed to the chorro, as the priest set up the first town of San Miguel de los Chichimecas next to the river Laja, or the Rio Laja. But oftentimes the river would flood their town, or they did not have enough water. And so the priest gathered the people and said, move. They took everything they owned. They took, of course, dogs. They headed up the hill. The reason chose this place to live was because the dogs, the hairless Mexican dogs, actually found a stream of water. So here we are at the very top of the hill, the Chorro and the Santa Ana Church. So here we can see the church on the right, finished in 1542, still standing. We can see next to the church, they had the public baths and the washing squares. And this curving street is the street we're heading down next. So here you can see the women and the children as they're washing the clothes. And like I said, the public baths. Here it is today. And we're headed down. This would be, if you've been to San Francisco, our Lombard Street in San Miguel. Of course, much shorter, but just as twisty and curvy. So there we go. You feel like you're about to go down on a roller coaster. So yes, you have to go about 2, maybe not even 2 miles an hour. Along the side, there are platforms with stairs so you can walk up. This area is used often as a public space. You can see folk dancers practicing there, theater classes, many times art classes are held there. So here we are arriving at the bottom of the hill, and the new lavaderos, the new washing square, is right here at the bottom. You know you're in an old place when something over 100 years old is still considered to be new. So here, Los Lavaderos. Here we can see a picture of people washing, 1915 or so, and a picture of people washing in modern times. So you'd wash your clothes here, then hang them up all along the wall to dry. And of course, this was basically San Miguel's first social networking site. So here it is at night. So there was no running water in town for a very long time. So people would come to the fountains or the lavaderos to fetch their water for cooking, cleaning, and bathing. They would linger and gossip with their friends. All wealthy families had servants in this time. There is a legend about a beautiful servant girl named Juana who worked for a wealthy family that lived nearby. The family had a handsome son named Tomas. Tomas fell in love with the servant girl, but before they could get married, the Mexican Revolution was declared in 1910. The couple cried as they said their goodbyes. Thomas promised to write whenever he could and that they would marry upon his return. Juana continued to work for the family, fetching buckets of water and washing clothes. She received letters from Thomas every few months for 7 years. And finally, the revolution ended. Tomas was headed home. She waited and waited and waited. But she never got another letter, and he never returned home. After waiting for more than a year, she realized Tomas would never return home, and she would be destined to live as a servant until the day she died. She couldn't bear this life, and she couldn't go on without the love of her life. So Juana put on the wedding dress that she had made while Tomas was gone. Juana took a horse from the stable. She wept as she rode to the top of the cliff. She hesitated just a moment and then galloped herself and the horse off the edge of the cliff. Both died. And now it is said, late at night, Juana, still wearing her wedding dress in Vail, roams the town, fetching water at the fountains and washing clothes at the washing square, while weeping and wailing. When people see her, they think she is a real woman, and they approach her to try to comfort her. When Juana turns toward them, they are shocked to see the head of a horse under the veil before they turn around and run away. The servant, la servienta. We are going literally just around the corner. We are heading to Parque Suarez, which was Dr. Hernandez Marcias bought all of the fruit orchards that he could and turned it into a French-style public park as his legacy to the town. So here we go. This is one of the entrances. Again, right now, during coronavirus times, no one is allowed into the park. So we will check out what the park looked like and what it looks like now. So here we go. Parque Suarez, Suarez Park. So here, this was in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and this is the same spot today. So here we have the story of the lady with the veil, the veiled lady. So once there was a young woman who had been very badly burned in a fire. She didn't leave her house for many, many months. Finally, she went stir crazy and decided to cover her face with a black veil and to only leave her house at night, as she didn't want to frighten any children. One night, as she was returning home, she noticed that she was being followed by 3 very drunk men. She started to walk faster, and the men walked faster. She started to run, and the men ran after her. After walking through the park, running through the park, the men caught her. But instead of crying, she began to laugh. And she pulled the veil off of her head, and the men were so frightened by her ugly, terrible face that they had heart attacks and dropped dead from the fright. The woman straightened her veil and went on her way. But the men were turned into ghosts. They can still be seen stumbling drunk around the town. They like to sing drinking songs and often try to befriend men, especially if the men are drinking also. But they are terrified of women. If they see a woman, they will turn around and run the other direction. Very good. Okay, I think we have time for one more. Can you tell me the time? Do we have time for one more, Rebecca, or should we cut it off here. What do you say?
I think you're on a roll, Vail. I'm enjoying it. Go for one more.
Okay, one more. Very good. Excellent. Okay, so here we will see the woman. Okay, so here we'll do one more story. We're headed to the Callejón de los Chiquitos. So this is a very narrow street and it's only 1 block long. So people often assume it means the small street. But if we listen, el Callejón de los Chiquitos, it is the small street of the small ones. So this street is located just about 2 blocks away from our main square, the Jardín, or the garden. So Mexico has a very long and rich history with elves. These elves are not necessarily evil per se, but they do like to play tricks on people. So the people on this street of Callejón de los Chiquitos tell stories about things that go missing. They never go missing permanently. They aren't stolen, they are just moved. You will look for something all over your house and suddenly it will appear in a place that you had looked for many times before. So, of course, these elves enjoy moving things like keys, books, clothes, but especially shiny things like jewelry and mirrors. So here we're getting to our main square. If we could, we'd go to the left, it would be the main square. We're heading up this street, Correo Street, named after the Correo, the post office. Very good. So here we go, just one more block to the Callejón Chiquitos. So this is another difficult street to get up. You've got to move back and forth and make your way up Calle Chiquitos. Here we go. Okay, very narrow, as you can see, and very short. So the neighbors also say that late at night, when everyone should be asleep, they hear children playing outside. They are singing, they are knocking on doors, and when they open the window or the door to yell at them to be quiet and go to bed, no one is there. The street is empty. Here, Callejón de los Chiquitos. Here we can see how short it is. And here, the elves or the duendes. So they are playful creatures, as I say. It is said that they live in the house number 10, which is the abandoned house here on the left side of the screen. So they say if you're walking about late at night and you knock on this door 3 times and the elves are awake and they like you, you knock 3 times and they will knock 3 times. It's best to do this after midnight as they are nocturnal elves. Many of the neighbors have discovered that if they leave shiny jewelry like costume jewelry, mirrors, or candy at this door or in their own homes, they keep the chiquitos, the dwarves, the elves, happy. And the chiquitos leave their things alone. So here you are. I will add, if you would like later to give me your email, I can send you a map of where we went on this evening's ghost story tours. And we will have eventually a part 2 also. So I think the time is this is a good time to stop. What do you think? I could keep going, but I know people have other things to do, and I think our attention spans usually an hour is the outer limit during these times. So if you all have any questions, comments, or would like to share your own supernatural experience, I'm going to just, can you go to the last page? I'm going to skip to the last page. Can we do that? Let's see. Okay, whoops. Okay, last page down here. Okay, so very good. Thank you for joining me. I do food tours and I do classes, both virtually and in person. So you can reach me at this email. And please let me know any comments, any questions.
There was one. Oh, go ahead, Ginger.
Go ahead.
Trenia Logan had a question about how many animals died in the first one. I think she was referring to when we were at Animas. There was, did you say something about animals?
No, animas. Animas are souls, not animals. It's hard sometimes. Animas means souls. So this was where the funeral procession would be, they would walk down that street with the humans, not the animals. Animals, no funeral except in your own backyard. Very good, excellent question. Very good. Any other questions, comments?
Tracy had a comment. Tracy Callenquin said she got a tattoo in San Miguel and it ended around night. She walked the streets of San Miguel at night and it felt like there was so much life in the streets even though there weren't a lot of people out.
That's true. Yes, hello Tracy. He took a food tour with me and we're all teachers, so we've stayed connected, which is fabulous. Very good, thank you, thank you. If you all want more, we'll do a part 2. Actually, the idea is hopefully to do a Day of the Dead kind of ghost stories with the Day of the Dead theme. So hopefully in the beginning of November, end of October, beginning of November. So very good. Does anyone have a story of their own they'd like to share? No? Thank you all so much for coming. This was amazing.
Victor says, please make a part 2. We've had a lot of good feedback, Vail. Thank you so much.
Oh, wonderful. Oh,
And
good. Thank you all.
To add on to it, the things that you've said tonight, I've heard from long-term Mexican or long-term San Miguelenses. The one about the woman at the washing station. She said that
the horse head.
Yes, and he said he was like absolutely. When he told me the story, it was as if he 100% believed in what he was me.
Exactly. I think I mean, part of it is some kind of spirit must stay behind in some sort of form, but also because we hear these stories, of course, it's very easy to let our imaginations run wild. I hope there weren't too many small children that will have nightmares tonight. I tried to keep it a little bit family friendly. So I thought this doesn't keep anyone from visiting San Miguel. During the day, it's not scary at all. Oh, very good.
Thank you so much,
you all.
Vail.
Oh, it's my
And I love the video tour. That was amazing. Great way to feel like you're there.
Exactly, yes. I thought if you live here, it's coronavirus time, you're not getting out. If you visited here and you're not here now, it would be fun to see the streets. And of course, a great way to get people to come down and visit also. So we do this as a live tour with cocktail spirits, along with the ghost stories also.
Are you running those now? Are you able to do those now?
Right now we will do private groups. So we're not mixing any groups of people. And of course, we're keeping them to very small numbers. We're also starting to do, for those of you who live in San Miguel, in-house tours. So instead of going to 6 restaurants, you come to my patio and we have a chef that gives you 6 dishes in one spot, and kind of like this with PowerPoint, so you get a little bit of culture, a little bit of history, and of course, delicious food and hands-on experience making tortillas or guacamole or whatever. We've got a pre-Hispanic experience, colonial experience, taco, pachanga party. So yes, please, my email is there if you're interested in any kind of class or tour. I would love to meet up with you all.
Thank you so much. We've had one last request. We have kudos to your son for his tech support, and Tracy wants to know, can he make a cameo?
Let's see. Come on, Saul. He's a little bit shy. Okay, that's all we're gonna get, I think. But Tracy,
Thank you, Alonzo.
all of us now. Very good. Oh, well, thank you all so much. It was such a pleasure, and I look forward to doing the Spirits of San Miguel Part 2.
We look forward to it, Vail. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. If you haven't had a chance to donate, we have the website on the chat window that you can go back, where the same website that you registered, languageadventurepros.com webinars, and you'll be able to donate to Vail's for Vail's chat tonight. And as well, we will have a recording of this up, and if you want to share it with friends, and they can donate as well. In these times with quarantine, a lot of the people in town who rely on tourism have really suffered greatly, and all of your support is very much appreciated. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good night. Thank you, Vail.
Good night. Bye-bye.